Hi. If you're watching this video, I assume that you're interested in Xteink devices, and so you'll know some of the backstory. Now, when the X4 and later the X3, which I have, came out, the reaction of people in terms of upgrades that they wanted fell roughly into two camps. On the one hand, we had the people that wanted an experience that was similar to a Kindle, for example, and so therefore would like a front light and a touchscreen as well. On the other hand, we had people that really enjoyed the analog experience that these devices offered, and so only wanted a front light, and having a touchscreen would be something that would be actively bad for them. Now, the company listened to one of these crowds, and it was the people that wanted a touchscreen and a front light. And they released earlier this month the X4 Pro, which you may have started seeing videos on YouTube about. Now, this is a device that's very similar to the X4, but has the added benefits of having a touchscreen and a front light. Now, this to some would seem to be the perfect device, the perfect small-scale device. However, there are some caveats. On the one hand, it obviously doesn't satisfy the crowd that only wanted a front light and still wanted the physical buttons to be there as opposed to a touchscreen. On the other hand, there are two aspects that seem to be a little bit problematic with the X4 Pro. One is that in order for the company to be able to fit everything into the body of the X4 Pro, they had to remove the USB-C and add a pogo pin charger like the X3 has. And this is simply for a reason of space, because a pogo pin charger takes up a lot less space than USB-C. And this is a deal breaker for a lot of people. On the other hand, the front light that they've added is, from what I've seen, a little bit strong. So a lot of people wanted a front light so that they could read in bed at night with their partner alongside them trying to go to sleep. And if you have a really bright light, it's not going to solve the issue. So this device came out, but as you can see, it doesn't handle the concerns of a lot of people. And specifically, if we're thinking about the people that are only interested in having a front light, but really enjoy the analog feeling of having the physical buttons, there's something that can be done about that. Now, this is something that has been worked at by a couple of people on the Reddit, and there have been a few posts of people that have tried to implement a light in the case of the device. And there have been a few attempts at this that have looked very rough, very kind of unfinished, not very commercializable, so to say. However, recently, in the last 2 or 3 weeks, there has been a Reddit user who has posted repeatedly about a case with the front light that they've designed, which seems to be really, really good. This is a case kind of similar to the one, it's for the X3 so far, like my device, and it's kind of similar to this case that I have. There are LEDs around the size of the case which illuminate the screen. And it's 3D printed, looks a lot like this, a little bit bigger so that it can fit the LEDs and protect the device and so on. And it seems to be a really nice finished product. Now, there is a little bit of controversy around this case because, to go back a little bit, when the X4 initially came out, there were a lot of people that focused on making 3D printable models of cases for the device. And one of the really, really successful ones is called the retro case. So, kind of similar to this one, it has buttons that resemble the kind of like Game Boys and Nintendos of like the 90s, that has a really retro feel, as the name of the case says, and it's been immensely successful. Lots of people have printed theirs and have got it and really enjoyed the case, and it was immensely successful. And the person who designed this new case with the front light apparently took some inspiration from it, and visually it looks a lot like that original case. Now, this person says that even though they used it for inspiration, the 3D printable design that they made is completely new and uses different models and so on, so it doesn't infringe any kind of copyright issues or anything. However, the community so far has been a lot around providing open source resources that people could implement. And there's been a lot of bad feelings towards this person because they have made their model and they've not made it available to the community as a 3D printable file. They're only selling it directly to people. And this kind of goes a little bit against the spirit of the community, which is incredibly focused on cooperation, on open source, and all of these things of making things that are available for everyone. And it's really, really cool to see. And this person, by making something with which they want to make some kind of profit to one extent or another, kind of goes against the spirit of the community. And so there's been some bad feelings around it. But I understand that this person, we've seen that a lot of the cases that have been made, the 3D printable models have been made available. Then companies have started selling them, obviously without having to do any product design and just stealing other people's ideas and files and just selling them like that. And so I understand that this person wouldn't want a random company that didn't do any work to benefit from the work that this person did. So there are nuances. It's not really, I don't think there's really a right side and the wrong side. Now, I will say that the same people that made the retro case are looking into making a model similar to the one that this person made available with the lights around the front of the case to illuminate the screen, and they'll make it available as a freely available 3D printable file. However, I know that in my case, I haven't really used 3D printing much, and so it's very daunting to think about using a 3D printer and how to go about all that. And so the idea of having a finished product like the one that this Reddit user offers is incredibly attractive, because to figure out any of this stuff, I can just get the finished product. I know that it's high quality, all of this stuff. So there's an attractiveness to just getting the product directly from this person. So the good thing is that in the future, you'll have these two options of presumably soon there'll be a file that will be available for 3D printers to make your own case, or you can get the finished print from this Reddit user. Initially, this Reddit user was going to sell the case on Etsy, and was kind of announced that it was going to be sold on Etsy and everything, and with that you have the kind of like reliability of being sold through an official market. But the thing is that with all the conversation around it and all the bad feelings, I think this person eventually gave up on that idea and is now selling the case via direct contact. So you message them on Reddit and they ask for a PayPal transfer. The case costs $30 and it ships for free in the US, and then depends on the postage fees to other parts of the world. So if you're outside of the US, it will depend a bit. But you need to contact them directly through Reddit, and so then obviously you don't have the assuredness of this being done by an official company. With that, I should say that I cannot guarantee that if you contact this person and ask them for a case and pay them, that they're actually going to send it to you. I cannot vouch for them, but I just wanted to make a video about this case so that if people are really happy with their X3s, are really happy with their X4s, which this person is making a model for the X4 at the moment, but want that front light, want to have the possibility of reading without a light, do not fear, you don't have to give up your device. There's going to be this case that is coming soon. You can either order it finished from this Reddit user, or there will be a 3D printable file very soon, but you will have this ability of having your lovely X3, X4, but with the front light. One last little thing that I wanted to mention is about my X3 case. Now, earlier this month, I made a video about this case that I ordered, which covers very nicely the sides of the device. And I'm a very clumsy person. I'm very afraid of dropping my X3. And so this case was something that I wanted because I was afraid of dropping the device. It would bang one of the corners and it would break that way, because the original case only covers kind of like one side of the device and then the front and the back, and three sides of the device are completely exposed. And for someone who's clumsy like me, this is not a good system, and so I got one that protects the sides. However, there were issues with this specific case. The back slides off incredibly easy, as you can see, which isn't great. And if I show you also, there's it's not very visible, but the side here started to detach and I had to put a little bit of super glue here. So there were a couple of things with this case that I wasn't happy with, but the main one was that when I was putting this in my pocket, in my bag, with other things, I started to notice that the screen protector was scratching a little bit. And there have been many posts on Reddit, etc., that have commented on how fragile the screens in these devices are, and therefore I thought that this was also not the perfect case for me, because the screen is very exposed, and any kind of, if I have it in my pocket with my keys and there's any scratch or impact or anything, it will break the screen. And so this is obviously something that I want to avoid. And so in this search for a perfect case, I got a new one from AliExpress. And this is what my new case looks like. It's from Two Sheep, the shop on AliExpress. And as you can see, it's pretty elegant, kind of similar to the case that comes with the device. However, a very important difference is that you can see here, it slides into a silicone case, which the corners are very protected, and it goes a little bit over the screen, so that's super nice. And then the magnet of the X3 itself attaches the device to the case, and then it just closes like normal. It has, like the original case, a magnet that keeps it closed, as you can see, and also keeps it open, which is super nice. One thing that I will say as a negative of this case is that because you've got this silicone in between the X3 and the case, it's not attached as firmly as in the original case, so it kind of like slides off, especially sideways, which could be a little bit annoying for some people. But the thing is that when I'm reading on it, which is when I kind of like click the buttons and kind of moves around a little bit, I always have the band on my wrist, which I currently don't have installed, but because I always have it on my wrist, I'm not really concerned while I'm using it. But I know that now I can put it in my bag and it's going to be nicely protected. The actual case is not even in contact directly with the screen, because you've got an extra margin from the case above the screen. And so any kind of impact or anything is going to be nicely absorbed by the top of the case. And then in the sides, it's nicely protected. No sides or corners are exposed. And so this is, I think, the last case that I'm going to get. And I feel protected in terms of my X3 now with this case. So that's everything that I wanted to talk about today. To summarize, the X4 Pro is out. It offers a touchscreen and a front light, but has other drawbacks. On the other hand, if you already have an X3 and an X4 and you just want a front light, there's this new case which you can order finished or 3D print yourself at some time in the near future, and you won't have to buy a new device in order to have a front light. And finally, this case for my X3, which hopefully will be the last case that I order. Thank you very much, and I'll see you next time.